Yo, welcome to Hard Pass. I am your host, Jacques Slade. Today on the show, we've got the next sneaker to embrace football culture, the Coco Golf sneaker takeover, Jordan Brand teasing OGs because, well, they can, the week's hottest releases, and of course, we've got our Hard Pass. All right, so let's start the show with some hot takes. The shine on Anthony Edwards might be off a little bit after his Minnesota Timberwolves were eliminated in the Western Conference Finals without putting up the killer numbers we're accustomed to seeing from him, but that ain't stopping Adidas basketball, or should I say Adidas US football. They are set to release the Anthony Edwards 1 Low in cleat form next spring. And man, if you had any doubts about the AE1's crossover appeal, let's put them to rest because they are looking good on the gridiron. I expect to see these on everybody within the Three Stripes NFL roster, most notably their big rookie signing, Travis Hunter. AE1 cleats have the potential to be as common on the field as Jordan 1 or a converted Kobe Protro. But wait, with hashtag Boots Only Summer becoming a thing, would Adidas dare release a street-ready version of the cleated AE1 Low, even though the AE1s are just all over the place anyway without cleats? Is this kind of like a sneaker inception thing? The Adidas Crazy 2. The Adidas The Kobe 2 dropped this past week, and as you might expect, it's still available as of this recording. I mean, who could have seen that coming besides absolutely everybody? Look, this is the opposite of the Anthony Edwards 1 Low cleats. Cleats based on your hottest basketball sneaker in who knows how long. Good idea. Re-releasing a universally panned sneaker that was a contributing factor to said athlete leaving the brand? Bad idea. I used to think that maybe Adidas finding a way to work with Nike and the Brian Estate on a deal that gets Kobe's old branding on these shoes would do the trick, but man, the Kobe 2s was such a bad idea. I don't know what could get people to like them like then, now, or really ever. Congratulations to Coco Golf, fresh off of a French Open victory, rocking her signature New Balance CG2 Gray Days that is really anything but gray. The now two-time Grand Slam winner was courtside for the New York Liberty against the Chicago Sky this past week, rocking the just-released New Balance Absorb 2000, which is basically now sold out. Now, look, I get it. It's tennis. The sport hasn't been popping on the sneaker side for a while now. But don't sell Coco short. She's the only current tennis player, man or woman, who has a signature shoe. And to win at the highest levels in sneakers with her name on it, that's a big deal. And to rock the Absorb at a high-profile event like your LeBron James wearing the latest Air Max during a tunnel walk before they drop, that shows you that New Balance has faith in Coco. I mean, she's already got a takedown model that even went under the radar, and we do the heat check here every freaking week. I'm just saying, New Balance, you might have Shohei Ohtani and Kawhi Leonard and Cooper Flag, but yo, don't sleep on the champ. So Playboi Carti, is he and Under Armour teaming up, or is he and Timbaland teaming up? That's the speculation after he was spotted wearing a skull cap with the UA and Opium branding and a custom double-tongued pair of Timbs. If you don't know, Opium is the name of Carti's record label and the eclectic aesthetic that he and his fans seem to have adopted. Now, optics of seeing the word Opium next to a UA or a Timberland logo being sold in stores aside, Carti does have a sizable fan base that's young and has a disposable income that brands desire. Not saying he's the next Travis Scott or anything like that, but Under Armour and Timberland might have something cooking if Carti becomes a, creative director or something of that nature for either brand. Nike, they finally made Panda Dunks. No, it's not just a pair of black and white. It's dunks in kid sizes with images of pandas on it. Will these take over the game like Panda Dunks did a few years back? No, but it's funny to think that for all those years that everybody was wearing Panda Dunks, they did not actually have any Panda references besides the colors. Now that this is an actual Panda Dunk, chances are very few people are going to care, and they're probably going to outlet stores. Just to show you that nobody can predict what's going to catch on with the people. Like, who would have thought that the same kids who were paying hundreds of dollars for Panda Dunks are now lining up at vending machines in malls across the country because they want to get these dolls called Labubu? And how the hell has no brand worked with the artist that made these Labubu dolls? Like, how has Adidas and Puma or Converse not gotten on the Labubu wave? Okay, Now I kind of feel like co-writer is just putting Labubu on the script because he thinks it's funny when I say Labubu. If you happen to be in the Beaverton, Oregon area, be sure to make your way to the Michael Jordan building because they've got a whole sample collection of the Air Jordan 1 High 85 in their OG colorways. That's right, not just the band pair. They've got Chicago, Black Toe, Royal, Shadow, the full metallic set, everything. Turns out they weren't just doing research on how to make the band ones as close to the originals as possible. They were doing it for every colorway. So now you know that Jordan Brand has samples of them. When do you think they're going to actually drop? Well, considering that there are reports that the band is set to return either later this year or sometime in 2026, it's going to be a minute before you get your favorite from the metallics. Well, except for the burgundy. That actually came out already. So make that trip and see what it might be like when the metallic purple drops in 2029 or whatever. Before we move on to the pick of the week, I want to give a shout out to Nate Robinson and his collaboration with friend of the program, Aaron Cooper, and his independent sneaker brand, EQLZ. They dropped 2 new Kryptonite-inspired colorways of the 24/7 and the 360 that tell his life's journey comic book style. From the colors of the sneakers to the branding to the packaging, it's a unique way to tell Nate's story, including his recent kidney transplant. Thanks to independent brands like EQLZ, it's cool that athletes like Nate are able to stay relevant in the shoe game even though their NBA days are long behind them. It shouldn't just be about the LeBrons or the KDs or the Stephs and other signature athletes that stay in the public consciousness. Guys like Nate Robinson had more than his share of sneaker moments in Jordans and foam posits. And while we don't expect those shoes to come back when Nate's no longer under the contract, a brand like EQLZ can help remind us that Nate and other players were those dudes. All right, for the pick of the week is Faith Kipyegon Nike running collection. This is going to drop on June 20th. So inspired by Faith's attempt to be the first woman to run a sub 4-minute mile on June 26th in Paris as part of Nike's Breaking 4 event, the 4 runner collection spans the full gamut of high-end tech runners to the latest flagship Pegasus model, decked out in a burgundy crush, oxygen purple, fuchsia dream, flash crimson, and electric algae. It's definitely the most wordy colorway out there for sure. So you have the Zoom X Alpha Fly, and that's going to be on the 20th for $295. You have the Pegasus Premium, that's on the 20th as well for $220. You have the Pegasus Plus, that's going to be for $200, or you have the Zoom Pegasus 41, that's going to be for $145. All right, so let's talk about the Reebok infomercial on Netflix, aka Power Moves with Shaquille O'Neal. Okay, that sounds a little bit harsh, but that's what you need to know going into this 6-episode series that debuted last week on the streamer. As part of the brand's comeback attempt, they are putting themselves out there in a way that you never expect a Nike or a Jordan or an Adidas would. Under Armour, probably, especially during their pre-Steph Curry days. But Reebok, they got to do everything to get people aware that they are back in basketball. And one of those ways is by pitching the biggest streaming platform in the world on a show about their comeback that also has Shaq's name in the title. It's not hard-hitting journalism by any stretch. It's an underdog story told through the eyes of the underdog that's worth, $2.5 billion. If you're any kind of connected to the sneaker world and the athletes that sign with these brands, you know where Reebok stands as of June 2025. They got Angel Reese and kids with potential in college and the G League. In the trailer, Shaq teases that they wanted to sign Shai Gilgeous-Alexander away from Converse. Obviously, that didn't happen, and they tell that story in episode 1. Shaq is pushing for SGA because he believes in making a splash with the biggest name possible. Reebok's brass doesn't see it in the same way. They want to rebuild the brand through youth. Reebok doesn't dissuade Shaq, and hey, if he can recruit SGA, why not? It doesn't work out, and that's the theme really throughout the show. Reebok wins some and Reebok loses some. If you're not connected to sneakers and we're just browsing Netflix and happened upon Shaq in the thumbnail, the message is that Reebok is here and they're grinding. That in and of itself should be seen as a victory. In episode 2, Shaq briefly touched on his doctorate thesis in education called How Leaders Utilize Humor or Seriousness in Leadership Roles. The short version is that his leadership style is 80% silliness and 20% seriousness. Kind of like this show. Sounds more like his life philosophy and his approach to broadcasting. As a Laker fan, you can't help but think how many rings we would have if it was the other way around, but you get the idea. Shaq is not Shaq if he's not the jolly giant who you should probably never cross. In Power Moves, you get the fun-loving Shaq who charms high school kids, G Leaguers, and NBA rookies, all of whom were either too young or weren't even born when Shaq won his last championship in designing with the brand. At the same time, you also get the serious side that wants to succeed in the business world, but is humble enough to let others take the lead when it's out of his depth. Because the fun-loving and self-glazing Shaq is a big chunk of his screen time, you leave the show wanting to see more of that 20% because it's legitimately fascinating to see Shaq when he's not just f***ing around. Speaking of that 80-20 split, let's talk Allen Iverson. It's Shaq's show, but AI is far from filling a spot in the credits. While President Shaq is flying all across the country doing the high-level stuff, Vice President Allen Iverson is presented as a closer of sorts. They frame his approval of the new Engine A sneaker as a big moment. When potential signees land in Reebok HQ in Boston, AI pops up to give them the talk. That Reebok will let you be you, that you can grow with the brand, that this is the place you need to sign. It was fascinating to watch AI talk to younger players who either caught him at the later part of his career, like Dejounte Carrington of the WNBA, to high school kids that only know him through YouTube highlights. Like, yeah, to people in their 30s and 40s, Allen Iverson was the man. And to see that his aura has been maintained, well, that's kind of cool to see, because you know Reebok didn't sign SGA, and outside of Reese, their growing roster isn't full of stars at the moment. The drama has to come from somewhere else, and that's where Shaq's son, Sharif, comes in. If Power Moves ends up becoming a backdoor pilot for a Shaq Sharif reality show that tells the story of a father who has conflicting feelings about his son chasing his hoop dreams, I'm all for it. To see Shaq be vulnerable when talking about his son's health scare a few years ago was the realest moment of the series. To hear the urgency and the honesty, the desperation in Sharif because he knows his chances of making the NBA are dwindling by the day was a little heartbreaking for those of us who have seen him grow up here in LA. That mini arc being the most compelling part of a promotional tool for a sneaker company kinda says a lot. Shaq says that in 3 years, he wants Reebok basketball to be number 2 again like they were back in the days. Not sure if that means we're going to get more seasons of this show, but we wouldn't mind a second go at this with, you know, more of a 50-50 split compared to the 80-20 like Shaq really wants it to be. It's time for this week's Hard Pass. We'll take a look at something in the culture that just needs to go, like all the Mario Kart bullshit. So, co-writer, he's had the Nintendo Switch 2 for a little over a week now, and he's been enjoying all of the quality of life improvements. Like, when something as benign as taking off and attaching the Joy-Cons is something that's worth talking about, you know the wait for a new console has been a long time coming. But yeah, reports from co-writer are that the Switch 2 has been the upgrade that people have been asking Nintendo to make for a few years now. From the faster load times on old games to improved fidelity of Mario Kart World in comparison to 8 Deluxe, it's been a welcome addition for sure. That being said, co-writer is going through it again, and it is Mario Kart bullshit. It's the total lack of respect that Mario Kart franchise has for the concept of skill. Because you can be in first place for 95% of the race, but you're always one blue shell away on the final stretch from second place, and you are one blue shell, a lightning bolt, a giant mushroom, and a red shell on the final stretch away from being 24th. Don't ask co-writer how many times he thought he had the crown going into the checkpoint of an online knockout, only to get eliminated inches away from the finish line. But other than that, he loves Mario Kart World. He's been enjoying the divisive free roam mode more than others, thanks in no small part to the game's amazing soundtrack. He says it sounds like the music director got a note from the higher-ups that they want every song that's ever been in the Mario game to be remixed to sound like early 1990s American sitcom and drama intros. The expanded field and the wider tracks gives races a different feel from previous entries, but it also invites the possibility for more Mario Kart bullshit because Nintendo wants races to be tense and down to the wire as much as possible. Mario Kart, Mario Party, Smash Brothers to a certain degree, Nintendo hates anybody that takes these games seriously, and despite that, co-writer keeps coming back. Why? Because they finally made the cow from Moo Moo Farm playable. He's that easy to please, people. Anyways, since we're on a gaming kick the last couple of weeks, here's co-writer's quick list of games that were shown during Summer Games Fest that he's looking forward to play over the next year or so. First one is Lumines Arise. Love Lumines since the PSP days. A new one is always welcome. Marvel Tokan. Marvel fighting game, but anime is mana to the soul. Marvel Cosmic Invasion. Marvel going 2 for 2 with exciting games. That's pretty cool. Mortal Kombat Legacy. Looking forward to the behind the scenes stuff more than the actual games. Felt that boxing. Mike Tyson's Punch Out, but with Muppets, and the graphics are amazing. Stranger Than Heaven. Cannot wait to see what the storyline twist is going to be. James Bond First Light. A Bond game with the Hitman DNA can't fail, right? Mixtape, that soundtrack is going to warm this millennial heart. Wu-Tang, Rise of the Deceiver, parentheses, presented by Ghostface Killer. We might finally get a good Wu-Tang game, y'all. Ninja Gaiden, Ragebound, 2-day Ninja Gaiden games. Co-writer can finish those. Ninja Gaiden 4, 3D Ninja Gaiden games. Might as well ask him to guard LeBron one-on-one. Super Meat Boy 3D. Oh, yeah. Hell yeah. The king is back and in 3D. There are no ghosts at the Grand. I have no idea what this is, but the vibe is pretty enchanting. Persona 4 Revival, the best Persona game, is back. And then Keeper. Double Fine quirkiness at its best. All right, that's going to do it for the show. Thank you guys for watching Hard Pass. I'm Jacques Slade. I'll see you next week, but not before we leave you with the viewer Hard Pass.
Yo, what up, Jacques? It's your favorite Hard Passer Leon. Did you miss me? Nah, I want to give a hard pass to these gaming developers out there, these quadruple AAA studios who are peppering us with half-ass games, part of my language, like let's call out the one in the room, Mind's Eye. You had us in suspense for years. You finally released this thing, and it's just buggy. It's just, I don't even know. It's just buggy, and it's just underwhelming. And I'm tired of this whole thing of, oh, this is by Benzies, the former director of the Grand Theft Auto series and Red Dead Redemption. These companies need to get it together. That's all I gotta say. I can't even speak straight right now. That's how frustrated I am. But you know what? It's just games. First world issue. I'll go out and I'll touch grass. All the best.
My man, Pastor Leon Morgan, coming through with another dope voicemail. Of course, I had to forward this one to co-writer, and this was his response. I did not know what Mind's Eye was until I heard this voicemail. So it's a new game from a new studio that was founded by one of the producers behind the Grand Theft Auto franchise. Considering I haven't really given a shit about GTA since San Andreas, that's not exactly a ringing endorsement. But then I looked at the controversy surrounding Mind's Eye, and it turns out there was negative press about the game pre-launch. People at Mind's Eye's studios were implying that Rockstar Games was conducting a smear campaign against their title because their founder was embroiled in a legal battle with Rockstar. Not only that, the chief legal officer and the chief financial officer departed a week before Mind's Eye's scheduled drop, and the media did not get review code prior to release. When one of those things happened before a game launch, it's not a good look. When both of those things happen, it could be a disaster. Turns out, when I watched a few videos of the game, it wasn't a disaster. It was just cripplingly mediocre in every sense of the word. Like a B game that would have cost $30 to $40 during the PS3 and Xbox 360 era somehow made it to 2025. There was nothing in the 2 to 3 hours of gameplay that I half watched while writing bits for the show that made me want to spend money on it. Maybe if the game goes on Xbox Game Pass or PlayStation Plus in a few months, I'll give it a shot, but it might not even be worth it to download. Anyway, if you'd like to possibly be featured in a future episode, call us at 818-493-9325. Leave a short message, your socials if you want, no more than 30 seconds. All right, I'll see you guys next week. Peace.